Welcome back, guys. My name's Alex. That's Eileen. And you guys are watching Straight the Chicane Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the Japanese GP. Konnichiwa, Eileen.
Konnichiwa.
So, did you, like the weekend? Enjoy the weekend? Did you get some sleep this weekend?
I did not get very much sleep this weekend.
Okay.
I am feeling a little bit better today. Okay. I was on the struggle bus yesterday. I felt like I had jet lag.
Wow.
It was tough.
You didn't even leave the house. How do you have jet lag?
I didn't even leave the house. I didn't even go anywhere. I transported my mind to Suzuka.
Nice.
But yes, I am feeling a lot better. It was a good weekend. I mean, Red Bull Redemption. They're the constructors champions.
They are.
As expected.
I'm
like, is anyone surprised? No.
Honestly, Max did it by himself. Literally this weekend.
Max just took this weekend and just ran away with it. I mean, unbelievable in the words of Max Verstappen. Unbelievable. Unbelievable rocket ship. Yeah. But just a stellar performance. And yeah, he literally won the Constructors Championship by himself this weekend.
But before we get into all that, let's kind of talk about what happened leading up to the weekend. A couple big things, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Well, we're coming off Singapore. And, we talked a lot last race about Liam Lawson and what was going to happen at AlphaTauri with the seats. So we knew going into this weekend, I think Yuki got re-signed last year because it's his home race. And so there was the rumor that he was going to be re-signed, but the rumor was going into this weekend that him and Ricciardo were both going to be signed. So I don't even think they announced it on media day. They waited until Friday. And I mean, Friday our time. So qualifying day. It's very confusing.
Yes,
so we're like 1 day delayed, but they both got signed. So they're, the driver's lineup for AlphaTauri is secured, locked in. So Yuki and Ricciardo for 2024, and Liam Lawson will be the reserve driver for Red Bull.
So that leaves us one open seat left, and it's
one open seat at Williams.
It's Logan's seat, whether or not he gets it or not. I'm kind of curious on what some of you guys think on whether or not Logan deserves to have a seat. What do you think?
I mean, he has the most expensive damage of all drivers
for this year.
And that's not including this weekend.
Which was, he retired during the race.
Retired.
He got red flagged he caused a red flag in practice one. So there was 2 times.
And qualifying. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, because they had an uphill battle going into, like right after post-qualifying. They immediately had to start working on his car. They got it back. He had a pit lane start, obviously, because I'm assuming they didn't meet the deadline. But, yeah.
Oh, no. They got in trouble because essentially they put too many parts on the car.
Oh, yes, and he had a 10-second penalty.
Because essentially they built a third car.
Yes.
I would love to know a little bit more about that because I don't know everything that had happened that caused it. So I think they just knew he was probably going to wreck, so they brought extra pieces.
That's crazy.
And they kind of had it in the back part of the garage.
Get the third car!
Yeah. Look, they used to do that. Back in the day, they would always have a third car. There was no rules against it, and some drivers would be driving during practice and be like, "This car's rubbish. Give me the other one."
Oh my god!
And I believe it's even happened during practice or during qualifyings too. I don't know for sure if I remember, but that used to be a normal thing. Then they made rules against it because big teams, the big 3 teams, they were able to probably have 4 cars if they wanted,
right.
But the smaller teams they can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen with Logan. I mean, I feel like Williams is the last 2 weekends, they were like, the car is not going to perform as well. They were expecting it to not perform well either. And so the best tracks that they had, he still didn't perform.
Right,
and so,
compared to Alex Albon, his teammate.
Yeah, well, you compare it to like a Liam Lawson, too, being a rookie who just got basically kind of tossed into the car, mid-weekend.
Mid-weekend, yeah.
Yeah, and so, that's the challenging thing. So, the rumor mill and what everybody on social media is like, oh, Liam should call up James and, be put on retainer, to take that seat or whatever. But I don't think Red Bull will give him up like they gave up Alex Albon.
No.
Because they see the potential in him. And I think with, like I told you this weekend, with Ricciardo, he's older, he's more seasoned. He brings a lot to Formula One, just with his personality too. And they haven't really given him the opportunity to prove himself. He's only raced a couple races. And the AlphaTauri got an upgrade. There was a lot of stuff that kind of went in at the same time as him. I don't want to discredit his performance because he did do a great job. But I think the right thing to do is to give Danny Ricciardo like the opportunity to, at least have a few drives under his belt.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I would 100% agree with that.
And Liam Lawson's young, so it's like he'll be in Formula One.
I mean, he's going to go be a reserve driver for AlphaTauri or Red Bull.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think, he's committed to Red Bull, so I don't see them, kind of loaning him out.
Yeah.
Like they did Albon. So, but the new rumor is that Drugovich could potentially take the seat.
I can see that.
Yeah, at Williams. So, I don't know. Do they want to keep an American in Formula One? That's like the one thing,
I think he's just... I think they do and they don't. I think they want to keep an American because it helps add to the sport here in this country because some people will root for just because he's American.
Yeah, I think, though, that, going to Formula One races and seeing... We'll see. This is, in a couple weeks here at the next one, but... I don't think it's going to make a difference, the popularity to the sport, if Logan is in it or not.
I don't disagree with that either. I just think there's some people that are going to be his fan because he's an American.
It's just interesting, too, because when you look at the stats when he was racing against Oscar Piastri, they were, level on points at one point.
But McLaren has
No, not this in Formula One, obviously.
In F2 and F3.
Yeah, they were level on points, and then I think he got punted out by somebody in the final race, and so Oscar won. So it's now McLaren has definitely delivered a better car, with their upgrades. I mean, they're taking their car in the right direction, but it's just interesting to see. But
since you mentioned McLaren, do you think they are the second fastest car on track right now?
Yeah. The last few races, yeah.
So they could...
I think there's a couple things that have been discovered. McLaren had another big package upgrade last weekend in Singapore, just for Lando. Oscar got the kit this weekend. We didn't really get to see Oscar's potential in Singapore because of the Lance Stroll crash.
But look, we got to see it this weekend, and he was on the front row, qualifying second.
Yeah.
Finishing on the podium, in third. I think... stellar weekend, cars performing well. McLaren as a team, both drivers are really just on par with
Zach Brown is on cloud 9 right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's really feeling himself.
I mean, look,
I decided to sport the McLaren.
Yep, I think they have a good possibility of being able to threaten Mercedes for number 2 in the championship.
No way.
No way?
Nope.
How many points?
They're too far back.
Oh.
Lando's tied for 7th, and Oscar is not. I don't even know if he's in the top 10. Ferrari, that's the second part of my statement, is going to be they finally figured out their tire deck. Mm-hmm. So they got a new floor, and since the summer break, Ferrari's on one.
Yes.
Fastest pit stop this weekend. They're looking good. Race pace is good. Strategy's getting better. It's an awakening for Ferrari.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully
they are 30 points behind Mercedes, and with what happened with Mercedes this weekend, team dynamic, strategy calls this year have been a little funky. Pit stops are never that great. We got a few races to go. It could be a tight battle to P2, and Ferrari could be.
I think Mercedes is going to have to do a whole lot in order to keep P2 in the Constructors' Championship. They're going to have to really mind everything that they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of complexities to things. It's interesting because Lewis he's P3 and he's behind Perez by 31 points. And I mean, there's a lot of points up. We've got 2 more sprint races. We've got 5 more races. We've got a lot of points up for grabs.
We do.
And if we see another weekend where Perez isn't performing, I don't know what the hell happened this weekend.
I've never seen him perform this bad ever. Of all the years I've watched Formula One and watched Perez, this was his worst weekend by far.
Yeah, so
he got 4 penalty points on his license.
Let's talk about Perez.
Let's go ahead and
talk about Perez. So, okay qualifying. You know, like I think you look at Max, he's a half a second ahead of P2 Max, okay?
Yeah.
Perez qualified P5.
Over a second, right? Behind?
I think it was like 8/10.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe 6/10, but still, it's just crazy. So, and then it's like the start of this race was like carnage. First little bump and grind was Perez. Lewis ran out of track. Perez bumped him out.
This was one of the most carnaged first laps we've had this season.
Yeah, there was a lot happening.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't even realize that Alex Albon ended up in the air until the replay.
Yeah, because there was kind of a whole lot going on. Because like it was 3 wide in the front with Max kind of pushing Oscar Piastri off the inside track, and with Lando on the outside kind of steaming around or trying to steam around. And then you had the guys in the middle there that was like Lewis and Perez and them. The Ferraris. And they were all kind of just going 3 wide and not
Nobody was paying attention to Alonso.
No.
Who had a great start.
Yeah, I didn't even pay attention to
and overtook like everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot to unpack in the start, but Perez specifically. So Perez gets damage to his front wing opening lap. Whatever. There's the carnage behind Bottas and Albon coming together. So we get a safety car right away. Perez ends up in the pits, gets a new front wing, comes out, and then is like going so fast that he overtakes cars under the safety car, gets a penalty
for coming out of the pit lane and passing a car.
For safety car infringement.
Yep.
So gets that. Then later, so this is all within 15 laps, okay? Later, he, ends up doing the same move that he did the previous lap, but didn't pull it together, and just bumper cars right into Magnussen. It was an interesting shot, too, because they ended up nose to nose.
Yeah.
And then Perez just drives off.
Yep, then he goes, my front wing is broken again.
I've got front wing damage again.
Oh, yeah, front wing damage.
And it's like, well, yeah, because you keep crashing into everybody.
Yeah, and so he came in right after that to get a front wing change, and I think they were going to retire. They retired.
No, he came in, went back out, and he's like, you know what? The
car
doesn't feel good.
The car doesn't feel right. That's right.
Well, yeah, because like you've been it a couple times. You've crashed on the left side, then he crashed on the right side. So, I mean, the alignment, it just couldn't be that great. So it was a struggle.
Yeah.
So they retire the car. He's got another 5-second penalty that he needs to serve.
But the car ain't right, and it's probably not really drivable that well.
So he goes in on like lap 15. And then he comes out. First of all, he gets out of the car.
They retired the car.
The car is DNF'd.
No, it's retired.
It's DNF'd at this point on the ticker, on the running board. And he gets out of the car. Where does he go? I don't know. Does he go to the bathroom? Does he get a drink? Does he get a snack? Does he phone a friend? Not really sure. And then all of a sudden it's like he's getting back in the car. They fixed the car. They're going to send him back out. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. So they send him back out on lap 40.
5 laps behind. That's what it says.
He was 13 laps down. There's no way, but for some reason it said plus 6 laps on the board.
Yeah.
And he goes back out and then serves his 5-second penalty and then retires the car.
Yep. They brought him out solely to laugh at that 5-second penalty, so he didn't serve it the next race.
I don't think that's right.
But you're allowed. There's rules. You're allowed to unretire the car and go back out.
So you're allowed. Okay, so here's why I don't understand why you're allowed to do what happened this weekend. He's out of the car. He's done. He's not in the car anymore. Whatever. The car is getting worked on.
Yeah.
He gets back in and he's allowed to go back on the track.
Yeah.
Example: Silverstone 2022. George Russell gets out of the car, runs over to Guan Yu Zhou, makes sure he's okay. The car's already on the flatbed to go back to the pit. It's because he didn't drive it back to the pit that he couldn't get back in the car?
Essentially, yes.
So, I mean, that's what it doesn't make any sense to me. And then to serve the penalty for the sole purpose, and even in his post-race interview, they're like, so you got back in the car and you went out just so that you could serve the penalty. And he's like, or so you didn't get the grid drop next race.
He's like, I didn't want the grid drop.
And he's like, no, he doesn't even say that. He's just like, nope, we had a 5-second penalty to serve. And they're like, so you don't have to take the grid drop at the next race. And he's like, yes, we had a 5-second penalty to serve. So it was all strategy. I get it. But it's like Red Bull already won the constructors. He's not getting any points.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Well, the point was to not serve the penalty, which would be inflicted on the next race.
The point is, yes, I get it, so that he doesn't lose P2 as well, but also so they can screw the other teams, essentially. But Perez, not a great weekend. Good meme content, though, I'll tell you that. There was a lot. Here he comes again. It's just, even the camera operators when Max was pitting his last pit stop and they panned over right after Max peeled away after his pit stop and Perez is still in the car. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, that was probably the most meme-worthy moment of Perez. But enough about Perez. We got other things to talk about.
We do. So
there's a lot of team dynamic stuff that happened this weekend. Look. The start of the weekend was real nice. Everyone, the whole F1 community got together. They all got together for Sebastian Vettel because he was there supporting bees and the nature, and they are making bee hotels, right?
There's something about Sebastian Vettel bringing the grid together. We saw it last year.
But it ended quickly.
We saw it last year in Abu Dhabi, though, too. They all came together and had dinner. This weekend, it was great to see them all for a good cause.
Yep.
Everyone seemed to be having a great time, loving Japan, doing their thing, making bee hotels. And then we get to the race, and the drama unfolds.
Yep.
So, first, I guess we should talk about Mercedes. There seems to be a lot to unpack with Mercedes. Is it because they just feel like stressed that they need to perform better, and they're just frustrated with the car? Why can't they get things right?
Frustration with the car, and then you have the dynamics of each driver. One being a 7-time world champion, and the other one that wants to be a world champion at all costs. Mm-hmm. And he's doing whatever he can to do it. And he's being a whiny little punk.
Oh, my God.
So, this isn't the first race he's been on the radio like that.
This is not the first race for
George. I'm sorry.
There's been some interesting, qualifying and practice sessions and whatever. And then the commentary that, team radio, whatever. But this weekend was interesting. They're on 2 separate strategies, and it started at the beginning. It started on lap 6. George was behind Lewis, and he wanted to challenge Lewis. So in the last corner, he overtakes Lewis.
Yep.
They're coming around the straight, and Lewis is like, no, I'm not doing this. So
they both went into that first turn pretty much neck to neck. And Lewis seemed to get pushed out just a little wide. I think maybe the tires were starting to kind of go a little bit or something, whatever it was. Pushed George off the track a little bit. But I would say it was all very fair, clean.
You're mixing up 2 situations.
Oh, okay.
Together.
My bad.
Yeah. So the beginning of the race, lap 6, is when George overtook him on the last corner. Lewis did go a little deep, but it set him up to, have the better lead coming down the main straight.
Yep.
So he overtook him easily. Later, it was after the first pit stops is when he pushed him wide at Spoon.
Got it.
And he's like, are we racing each other? Or are we racing others? This is George on the radio.
Yep.
And it's like, well, you kind of were the one to start the team battle.
It wasn't even started here. It was started earlier this year when he did some other bullshit.
It's been brewing for a while. I think that George feels he needs, like I said last week in Singapore, he needs to prove himself so bad that he's better than Lewis. He's faster than him, like he said on Sky Sports. Mm-hmm. He's this, he's that, he's worthy, whatever. But at the end of the day, he's in P7 now, P8 in the constructors. Lewis is fighting for P2 essentially. And, in a lot of these cases, he's had the pace.
Oh, a lot of the cases he's had the pace.
And so, there was the whole controversy in Singapore. Should they have let Lewis pass because Lewis was faster on the second stint? But, at the end of the day, I think in that case, you can't ask George to forfeit a podium. He forfeited it himself. But, I think this weekend, it's he's on a one-stop strategy. It's much different than Lewis. Lewis is on that final stint where the battle came down to what's it going to be with, the Ferraris. He came out and he was 2 seconds faster than George. So they should have immediately inverted the cars.
Yeah. Do you think if they would have immediately inverted the cars, do you think Lewis would have caught Charles in the Ferrari?
Yeah, I think that he was catching him still once he finally got past him. It was
but there was only like 5 laps left.
Yeah.
That wasn't enough laps left for him to catch him. I don't think he would have caught him when that.
They put both the cars at risk by.
Oh, they did by telling Lewis to slow down to give his teammate the DRS, right?
No, Lewis wanted to overtake George right away.
Right away.
George was like, let's wait until the last lap. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to wait.
Then I'll do the teamly thing. Yeah.
He'll give Lewis the DRS, and then he'll let him pass at the end, which we saw we'll talk about Pierre and Ocon. But to hold him up. But George was on much older tires. If he was going to just hang on to Lewis right behind him, Carlos would have overtaken them both. They would have lost both positions.
I agree.
And then what does that look like in the Constructors' Championship when they're clearly fighting with Ferrari right now? So I don't know. It was interesting, whatever. And then, I didn't hear a whole lot of Lewis on the radio, like negative. It was mostly like George. And then once they told him, hey, we're going to invert the cars. And he was like, trying to plead his case, like, oh, we'll invert on the last lap.
Oh, now we're a team, yeah.
No, and then his engineer's like, it's in order.
Yeah.
And so then he finally lets him by, and he's like, well, if we're going to play the team game, he pushed me wide at Spoon earlier in the race. And it's like, okay. And I know he's come out to say, oh, it's, we get heated on the radio, or we get this, or we get that. But it's like, I didn't hear that stuff from Lewis last year when George was beating him in the Drivers' Championship, And so it's like, I don't know. There's been a lot of that, and I think that there's a lot bubbling under the surface. We don't really know what's happening in the drivers' briefings or team briefings or whatever, but, people are like, is this a Nico Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton rivalry?
I think it could be. I think if it continues to do what it's doing, yeah.
I think that if the car doesn't get better, it could be pretty interesting, but also I think if the car does get better, it could be even more interesting.
Yeah, so it's lose-lose for either of them.
Yeah, I think with Lewis and Nico, though, they have history, and so...
Well, they raced each other competitively as children.
Yeah, they were like besties growing up.
Yeah, so you're right. There was deeper-rooted history. You're right.
But, all it's going to take is them two crashing out in a race to be a problem, so...
Yeah, and it can happen at any moment because they started getting closer and closer this race to each other. You're right about that. Look, enough about Mercedes. Let's talk about the one other team that kind of really they left a lot of stuff on the radio that probably just shows on how much.
Mostly just one driver.
Yeah, but I get look, Alpine when they first announced the 2 French drivers. There was already history between the two where they didn't really like each other, and then they kind of played it off to the media that they were going to be fine because we're teammates, we can deal with it. But I don't know. I don't know. I think what this weekend showed is that Pierre is like not one to hold back, and it just seemed a little like. It was a little bit too much. Well, Pierre's had a really tough season this year.
Alpine has had a really tough season this year. They have.
But there's been really good signs from Ocon, like him really doing well. There was, what was it, last race or the race before? Before he had a DNF or whatever, he had a really good race going. And he's been more, I think he has more points than him in the Constructor Championship too than Gasly. I think Gasly's at 47 or something.
Yeah, possibly.
And I think Ocon's a little bit higher than that. But I think Gasly's just having a really tough season. I don't think he's fitting with that car. The car has been an issue.
The car has been a major issue.
I don't think Gasly's been living up to what he was projected to do when he was over at AlphaTauri, and then he got promoted to the Red Bull. Like he was, destined to be on a Red Bull, and then if he fell flat there, and they brought him back down to AlphaTauri, brought him back there, and then now on to Alpine. I just think he's just not. He's not fulfilling what he feels that he should be doing. And he's very frustrated. And it's showing now on the radio, on camera.
This weekend was interesting. So basically what happened was, and we didn't see a whole lot of it actually play out during the race, but, Gasly was quick. He got to overtake Ocon to chase down Alonso, which you see a lot of times. Like, if the driver's a faster driver, like, let's see what happens. If not, then we'll see them, re-invert the cars.
Right.
And so he couldn't catch Alonso. Like, I mean, you don't even see Alonso on his onboard towards the end of the race. Yeah. And so going into the last lap, they say, okay, we're going to invert the cars. And he, on the radio, no filter, F-bombs.
No fucking way. Is this a joke? Are you serious?
Yeah, like just crazy. And then it's like silence. His engineer's like, I'm not joking. And I didn't think he was going to give the position back.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. And then you hear his engineer say, come on, please.
And he's like, okay. And then he basically just slams the brakes on, going into the final corner. Ocon comes through, and he's like, oh, thank you for that. Great teamwork. That's what you hear from Ocon's side. And as soon as Pierre crosses the finish line, his hands are in the air. He's flicking people off. He's, I'm sure, swearing, but we don't hear it on the radio.
Yeah.
All sorts of animation. I think that was the most I've seen from a driver.
In this modern era?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, that was a lot.
Because I'll tell you, previous areas, things were out of hand all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree that was probably the most.
For 1 point. For 1 point.
Yeah.
So Ocon got 2 and he got 1.
Yeah.
That's it. And then even in the post-race, it was like, I don't understand, like, why we did it. And Ocon was asked about it, too, and he's like, that's just always how it's been. If I've ever had to invert a position and they didn't catch up, we've always given it back. Like, vice versa. That's just how it's worked. So that was interesting. An interesting way to end the race for P9 and P10 for Alpine, but at least both cars finished.
Both cars finished this weekend. We know that they are not happy with each other. We'll see what comes out in the following race. They definitely have a big debrief going on. Mercedes has got a debrief going on. Mm-hmm. Sergio Perez has got a debrief going on. Plus plenty of points, like I mentioned earlier, 4 for everything he did this weekend.
I'll tell you who's feeling good is McLaren. They're feeling good.
Yeah, a double podium. Oscar's first podium.
Which was super cool and exciting.
Yeah, it's cool.
He was happy to be part of the Max Verstappen podcast, which we got to finally hear some commentary.
Oh, yeah?
And Max does not like it being called the Max Verstappen podcast. He said, I don't even understand where it came from. Well, it came from the fans, and it's funny. Yeah. But he was like, I don't even like podcasts. They make me fall asleep.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Oscar
Podcasts are just people talking. They're chill.
Oscar was like, I'm just happy to be a guest. So,
I think that trio, you're going to see a lot on the podium. I think if the cars stay the way they are, McLaren's a good team. They're good drivers. As much as you knock on Lando for his attitude or whatever it is that you have his beef for him.
I don't knock on Lando for it. I just feel like every time I hear Lando and George's like audio come up in their radio, it's them complaining about their teammates and they want to be in front of them.
Yeah.
Same thing with this weekend. Lando's like,
I'm so much faster.
He's like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, like just pass him then.
Right.
If he's not good, then just pass him. He's like, I'm just sitting back here in the dirty air. And it's like, well, yeah, that's what happens when you're behind another car. But I get it. He's the lead driver. Understand it. He has now moved up ahead of George Russell in the Drivers' Championship, too.
He passed George Russell, yes.
So they're level pegging on points, though. They're at 115, but he's obviously leading because he has, higher positions. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think another big thing to talk about is how many DNFs there were this weekend.
Yes, 5.
Now, some of them were caused by Sergio, unfortunately. Other ones.
No, none of them were caused by Sergio, actually.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Sergio hit Lewis, then he hit Magnussen. So Sergio caused his own DNF. So we'll give him that. He gets 1 point for that.
Okay.
Bottas was taken out by Sargeant after he hit the Williams. So essentially, Bottas took out Albon because Albon retired.
Yep.
And because his car was so damaged. So Sargeant took him out in retaliation. Then Sargeant retired because of his
damage.
Yep. And then somewhere along the line, Lance Stroll retired.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that.
I think he was just tired. I'm joking.
No, I don't know what was wrong with it.
I just feel like Aston Martin, my God.
I feel like they haven't done anything since the first few races as far as updates or anything like that, and they've just fallen back. I mean, look.
They did do updates, but it
didn't work.
It took them backwards.
I know it didn't work, yeah. But it just they haven't been performing very well. And look, I mean, even there was more frustration, too, with Fernando this weekend. It wasn't as bad as last weekend saying the car is undrivable. It was this weekend was you put me out with the pack of lions.
The lion's den.
Yeah, and I'm just going to get them eaten up, essentially, because he was out on some shittier tires, different tires than everyone else around him. They were all on fresher tires and just, I mean, literally it was one right after another passing.
Yeah, we saw Lewis overtake him, which was impressive in the, what was it, the 190R?
Yeah, the 190R that everyone...
I'm like, why is everyone, like, what?
Because you're full throttle, and you're throwing the steering wheel almost fully to get around that turn. It's pretty impressive going like 170, 180 miles an hour, and that you're taking that turn at full speed.
Yeah,
it's a well.
Well, with Aston, I will say their qualifying in Bahrain, first race of this year, was 2.2 seconds faster than Bahrain in 2022. The Japanese Grand Prix from 2022, they're actually slower in qualifying this year.
Wow. So, I didn't hear that. That's great. That's crazy.
Crazy, yeah. But, I mean, Alonso's putting it in Q3 every weekend, so I'm just throwing it out there again.
Yeah, you're right. He does.
5 DNFs. Stroll was one of them.
Yeah.
I can't speak to what happened.
I don't even know. I hope you guys can tell me what happened with Stroll, because I don't know either. I guess I'm gonna have to watch his inboard around whatever lap he
was just like, all right, Stroll's coming in, and he's not coming out. So
what other things am I missing here this weekend? I feel like there was a couple other things.
There was a lot of helmets. Lewis is being the highlight of the weekend.
Well, Lewis dropped his clothing line along with a helmet, and it was a whole campaign. And then he wasn't wearing it for practices.
I know. I was like, what's going on?
And you kept wondering where it was, and then he busted it out. And I don't know if there was a light on the inside.
There was.
Was it a light, or was it a tearaway that had color?
There was a light, because when he was in the garage, it was on.
But did anybody see them turn a light on or off? Because again, I don't know if it was a light or if it was like color paint on a tearaway.
It was a
that
light.
Looks like
it was
a light. I don't know. Anyways, it was a cool helmet. I'm sure he's probably auctioning it off or doing whatever with it, because it was with him and a special artist from Japan. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know if it helped him out in the race any more than it did or not.
Well, it didn't blind anybody, which was what his hopes were.
Yeah.
But, there were some cool helmets. Fernando had the Samurai. There was a few other ones. So I'm like, really, other than that, I mean, another impressive weekend from Ferrari. It's nice to see them with quick pit stops, leading the way.
They had the fastest pit stops, you said, this weekend, right?
Yep. They had the fastest pit stops. McLaren's pit stops have been very, very consistent. I mean, McLaren, this is exciting for them. It's exciting to see them on the up and up. So, I think Red Bull, so we're expecting next race that Max can win the championship in the sprint race.
So he could win it just by earning 8 points.
So I don't even know if it's 8 points. So what happens with Max now? So he's got, all these races left. Is he just as hungry, or is he going to is he going to cool his jets? Is he going to take it easy? He's not, is he?
No.
Yeah. Max is too competitive to cool his jets.
No, I think he's going to try and continue to win as much as he can and have as many wins as he can get in one season. He already set a record for consecutive wins. Now they're just trying to see how many they can get in one season.
Yeah.
I don't see him letting up no matter what, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't either. I think that's just his mentality.
Yeah,
so.
100%. Well, I don't know. I think we covered a lot in a short amount of time.
We did.
Which is kind of a new thing, which was great. This race was weird. It was late. It was
It was tiring.
It was tiring. I didn't make it through. I had to watch it the next day and watch some other things the day after. And that's why I know why we're getting to you guys kind of late. So we appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate you guys staying on for this long.
Yes.
We are kind of getting close to the end here. We're down to what? 4 or 5 races? 5?
Like Qatar, the U.S., Mexico, Brazil, Vegas. So it's 6. So
6.
I misspoke earlier.
You did misspoke.
So 6 races, 2 sprint races left.
Yeah.
No, 3 sprint races. Brazil,
America,
and Qatar. We'll be at the U.S. GP in 2 races.
Look, she's already got us starting to making those bracelets because apparently in the U.S. thing, people trade bracelets.
No, it's not even that. It's Taylor Swift. And if anybody knows, my goodness, Taylor Swift is like a hot storm.
Here in this country, at least.
Running across this country. But I'm sure European fans will be going to see her Europe leg when next year. But yes, we will be there. We know that Coda is asking for people to have friendship bracelets. So we will be passing them out. We have a lot more to make, but we did get started this past weekend. So if you're there, come find us. We'll trade. Yes.
So. All right, Eileen. That's it for me. If that's it for you.
That's it for me.
That's it for us.
That's it for us.
We'll see you guys in what, 1-2 weeks time?
A little less than 2 weeks. Yep.
Less than 2 weeks. We are in Qatar, the Hamburger Helper track. My least favorite track. I could care less about this place. You could fly over it for all I care.
Oh, God.
I don't really care for the track. I think it's going to be a boring race, to be honest with you.
You know what? It was pretty damn exciting last time, if you don't remember.
I don't remember.
We went 2 years ago. We didn't go last year because of the World Cup. But we went 2 years ago. It was like tire blowout central. Remember?
Not
Valtteri
really.
had the tire blowout. There was 2 other drivers. Russell being one of them had tire blowouts. Max got the penalty for the double yellows. It was on Drive to Survive. Yeah, there was all sorts of drama.
Well, we'll see.
It was also an action-packed year, though, for 2020. Because
that was a different year and a different cars
it was,
and a different era.
We need to bring back the Lewis and Max battle. We need to get them some equal cars because those 2 together, it's like cinema.
I mean, look, we heard commentary at the race, them talking about they want to be battling each other. They want to prove to each other who's better.
Yeah, and I think...
Still, to this day, I can tell you they want to battle each other. So, yeah,
Heck yeah.
Mercedes needs to bring a faster car because we want to see it, too. I think everyone else wants to see it.
But then we can throw McLaren in the mix. And
Ferrari, too.
So then it'll be really... some entertainment.
I hope so.
Let's go 2024.
Yeah. All right. So again, now this is the second time. That's it for us. We will see you guys in 2 weeks' time. Until then, take it easy.
Bye. Bye.